Okay, at Agile we do a lot of rear ends. We're doing gear changes in the ARB locker. I would say that we've probably done more. We've had our hands on more sprinters than anybody independently, probably more than most shops anywhere, for sure here in North America. We're starting to see some signs of wear on these vehicles. A lot of these come in, even without the locker, we're seeing components that are worn out. 99% of the time, there are no issues with the differential, not one single issue. They're pretty robust, the patterns look pretty good. Once in a while, we'll have one come in where, a small pinion bearing went away. The biggest problem we see is where people have had epic failures. They've either not filled them full of oil at the dealership or independently, they forget to, they drive on it and they burn them up, or they damage the differential cover going off-road. They just bang it up, drain all the oil out, and then they seize up the bearings. Usually they'll seize up this small bearing first, and then that thing gets roasted and it takes out everything. So we do a few of those, but honestly, these things are pretty robust. The axles, never seen a failure on an axle. Not a brake, nothing. Once in a while, we'll see the bearing come out, and we're starting to see it more and more. A lot of these sprinters are pretty heavy. Vehicles that come in here, they're normally at GVW, sometimes over, sometimes well over. There's a lot of load being put on them. And this is with and without the locker. We mostly see the damaged axles on vehicles that have, say, 60 to 100,000 miles, and they're RVs. And by I mean RV, they're just heavy. People are living in them, things like that. So what happens is the axle is splined. This is an axle here. This is how you would get it from the dealer. You'd get the bearing and then the axle. This actually comes apart and it will look like this spline up here inside of there. When we only buy these from the dealer, they do come pre-assembled. I forget what they are. They're like 800 bucks a side, but they're fairly reasonable. You're gonna get a good quality part and you're gonna get a good bearing on there. For the most part, we see these typically going 100,000 miles, oftentimes more. But we're asking a lot of them. Where they fail is inside of here. So this is the bearing. This is the weak link in the vehicle. You can buy these separately and service them. So if you've caught one before and you want to get one from an outside source, you're more than welcome to. If we're doing the work, we typically only will install this component for you, the axle and the bearing from Mercedes. But if you'll look inside of here, you'll see where the teeth are kind of mauled up. These axles are real hard. They go in there and you get a lot of torquing back and forth from you engaging and disengaging. Where you'll feel this is when you go back and forth between park and reverse. You might feel like a clunk, and you can go underneath and you can see it. It's pretty hard to actually see the play in it. We take the axles out and we have a fixture here that we put them in and we torque them and we can see the play. I've heard of people saying, well, I feel it in the driveway, things like that. Probably not gonna happen. There's too much going on because there's gonna be play here, there's gonna be play in U-joints. No, you need to really pull this apart to validate it. When it goes, it goes. The problem, when this loses splines in here and the axle spins, you're dead in the water. Your van's not going anywhere. You can put it in four-wheel drive, guess what? Open differential, it's still gonna go. Open center diff, it's not going anywhere. Open transfer case, it's not going anywhere. You're stuck. The only way you can fix it is by getting this part replaced, okay? Now, if you did have a locker installed, you blow out one of these bearings, you spin the lines in there, engage the locker, guess what? 100% drive. You'll get out of there. So we've had clients, they'll be stuck in the middle of nowhere. They're pretty much getting towed out if they tear up this axle. But if they do have a locker, I tell them, turn the locker on, drive it home, get to the road, drive all the way home. You'll just one-leg it all the way home, but it'll get there. So that's this bearing. Keep an eye out for it. If you get a clunky noise in there, be careful of it. The locker is not making it worse. This is a factory Mercedes issue. We see more of these with the factory differential than we do with the locker, just so you know. I don't feel the locker is making it any worse. If anything, it might make it better because with the brakes, when you're using the traction control from Mercedes, it's actually applying the brake out here at the end, and it's directly putting that load this direction into the axle. through here, twisting the axle, and then this way. Where with the locker, you're actually gonna twist it from this end here, and it's twisting and torsionally spinning it that way. So it's gonna be a lot easier on this joint in here. So if you were to ask me, the locker's probably easier on this component for normal driving, okay? So just interesting stuff on these axles. We're seeing it more and more. When you're in here getting a locker done, we inspect the axles. If you want your lockers inspected, there will be a fee to have it done. It's not what we do, but we're happy to help you out and guide you through it.